of a pandemic or times of like social unrest, that's when predators strike the most, right?
That's when they try to exploit our vulnerabilities. Even in good times, they're excellent at it. And we need to be careful. But in times like this right now, everyone's guard is down because we're focused, again, rightfully, on the most imminent threat. But that's why there are other things like gun safety, for instance. We were talking about this just before I came on, Clint. Utah, it's a fact. It's a reality that there are a lot of gun owners. And I'm not here to talk about gun policy. What I am here to talk about is when you have that many kids, again, home, you need gun owners like myself to be extra protective, make sure they're locked up, lock them up and keep them safe. That's keeping the gun safe and keeping the kids safe. Lock them up, put a trigger lock on them, keep them in a safe. There's a gun safety video that we created in our office that schools are using. If someone wants to just search Utah gun safety video, it's a good video made by kids for kids to talk about how to be more careful out there. And while we're speaking about being careful, two other things just really quickly come to mind. Our first responders, that's our EMT, fire, police officers, law enforcement, they're out there right now. And we all know that we need to get masks and supplies to hospitals, which in many instances are first responders themselves. And while we're working on all that, we're still asking our frontline first responders to be out there answering emergency calls to help protect our communities. And I think we owe it to them to make sure that they have at least a minimal amount of protection. So I want to highlight some organizations and people like Dan Young and his team, PC Laptops. They're raising a lot of money, trying to raise $1 million to make sure that we get masks and sanitizer to every fire station, to every police and sheriff office around the state. And the AG's office is proud to help be part of that coordination. But understand, again, we're all trying to make sure that hospitals, that medical personnel get what they need. They are right now heroes on the front line, and there are other heroes out there that we wanted to highlight. You asked me about, we talked about this on a town hall, price gouging before.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, there have been reports of price gouging. How significant has that been so far, what you're seeing? And, what can people do to prevent it?
Similar to fraud, people are opportunistic. And similarly, like fraud, we work hand in hand with our partners at the Division of Consumer Protection. I want to throw a number out right now. If people have any questions about price gouging or fraud, they can call 801-530-6601. Those are partners at the Division of Consumer Protection. Chris Parker is the interim executive director, great public servant. They can call my office. The general number at the AG's line is 801-366-0260, 366-0260. And any reports on price gouging, they can call in. Consumer Protection enforces that law. Utah, fortunately, actually has a law in place, not all states do, to address this. It's called the Price Controls Under Emergencies Act. To be wonkish, if any lawyers want to look it up, it's section 1341-101 to 202. But it allows, and this is important because I think some people think that any incremental increase is price gouging during times like this. It's not necessarily the case. Retailers are allowed to pass on the cost of the goods sold or the cost to acquire them plus a 10% markup. So you might see that eggs are slightly more expensive right now, or diapers or hand sanitizer, but they can't be 100 times more expensive. And that's where the price gouging statutes come in, because people will hoard these supplies, know that everyone's desperate to have them. Sometimes it's a little bit of an overreaction, but understandable that people want to stock up, and then they'll exploit that need and raise prices, and people will pay exorbitant amounts. It's illegal. It's against the law in Utah. There's a fine for every instance, and Consumer Protection is being aggressive and vigilant. We're helping them. A lot of complaints come into our office and we pass them on. Just so you know, Utah's way is to not just complain and scream at business and the business community, we work collaboratively. And yesterday we signed a partnership agreement with KSL Classifieds, Amazon, eBay, and several other online marketplaces to work more closely together. So some of your viewers might have seen last week, I sent a strongly worded letter out to them saying you need to do more. And they were great. Some of them had already started, and many more came in and said, what can we do? Let's work together. And that's how government and the private sector should work. I mean, we're not trying to put them out of business. We're not trying to put added burdens on them. We're just trying to help them protect the entire ecosystem, and they've been great about that. So want to give credit where credit is due, just like we call them out from time to time when we think that they can do more. And you all have been great at slopes. That's what I've loved about our relationship, whether it's our office or other offices at the state or federal level, is that you figured out ways to partner, to find out what's working well and amplify that, and address those issues, whether it's human trafficking, the opioid epidemic. I can't thank you again enough for all of those things. But right now we're in a crisis. People are afraid, they're uncertain, and slopes by some of these programs like this, I believe, is giving people real-time information to be able to better protect themselves, to be able to better protect their businesses and our community. So again, I wanted to make sure that we covered at least those areas. If you have anything else, I'm ready to.
Sean, I wonder if you'd weigh in on this, kind of debate that's going on whether or not the governor should issue a stay-at-home order or a shelter-in-place order, or he issued the stay safe, stay home directive. I don't know if you saw Florida has now issued a 30-day stay-at-home order. They did that this morning. How do you feel we're doing there? And would you recommend anything different than what's happening?
Well, I think that as a state, we have tried to strike the right balance, which is aggressively flatten the curve and also not create a solution or that will a remedy that ends up being more damaging than the problem that we were trying to address in the first place. And of course, everybody knows that the economy has taken a massive hit. And I think the governor is walking a very fine line. It's probably the most difficult decision that an executive can make when you see two very undesirable outcomes and you're trying to calibrate right where that line is. I have had CEOs from large businesses and small businesses call me every single day to say, our business is on the brink of extinction. And if we don't open our doors, start business again, or continue to keep things going, we won't really be as concerned about the health outcomes as we are about losing jobs and losing essentially what we've built over many decades. And so I'm not going to second guess anything that the governor has done here. I think we all who are in government recognize and realize, just like you in the private sector, that right now is a time for us to do everything that we can to keep businesses viable. I'll throw out an example. There's a group called Pay It Forward right now. I think Steve Young and the Forever Young Foundation, some other folks like Gavin Dixon, they've all come together to pick 10 or 15 local restaurants, and they buy a lot of food from them to try to give them a little injection, and then take that food to hospital workers and other frontline responders. And they're trying to be really creative because we must keep that economic engine running. So look, I'm not a health expert, and I leave that to the capable health experts that we have. But I have run businesses, and I have represented business and have invested in them. And I can see right now, not just here, but at a national level, why President Trump was, again, not so quick to try to shut things down. And I think he took a bit of unfair criticism because people said, how callous can you be? We need to jump in sooner, shut everything down. That's the only way to really get a handle on this from a health standpoint. And he understood very well the ramifications. And I do think that this relief package will be a lifeline for several businesses. I'm glad that Congress acted in a bipartisan way, and then the president showed great leadership in getting that. So I'm with you, Clint, in terms of not knowing exactly where that line is, but we'll continue to be supportive of the governor and his team in all of this. Any other questions that you have about
that's wonderful, Sean. I just want to, for our viewers watching, I want to make two things super clear. One, the Safe UT app is working. It's free. Please download it. I think, that app has saved lives, and it will continue to save lives during this crisis. So Safe Utah app, do that. And if you experience any price gouging, call 801-530-6601. Sean, right. Thanks for all your leadership, my friend. It's good to see you. I'm sure we'll have you on these town halls and another one of these as things progress, but I really appreciate everything you're doing.
Keeping you in our prayers, Clint, you and the family and all the Slopes family to be safe and healthy, and all of the viewers as well. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much.